Hey, so we made it at least to the record, to the live stream, the asynchronous live stream. This is the first time that Chunting and Megan are together. Do you guys wanna say anything to each other?
Um, in the past, we had Mighty Five. Now we are Powerful Three.
Okay. I love your sense of humor. Never lose it. Please,
Yeah.
never lose it. Ah, so, what do you? Why don't we compose like Mozart or Beethoven? Why? What can we learn about them, and what have we learned about them in the past? Because yeah, this in a way continues something that I was talking about with Megan last time. That and with Chunting too. But like Megan told me that she didn't really study that many scores during our time at UB because of her work, the nature of her work, right?
Well, yeah, no, I didn't. I think I studied scores for like musicology classes, but I didn't study as like part of my composition process, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I did.
I think for Megan's style, it's a little bit hard to find something truly relevant for her process or for her projects.
Yeah. I mean, there's some like like I looked at like Kago and Global Car, like, but they're kind of not exactly what I do, but have some branches. Um, but I mean, definitely when I was young, I studied a lot of scores, and I probably wrote music that was definitely heavily influenced by some of the scores I looked at. But I mean, the one thing I was telling Juan last time is that like composition is hard. It's hard to write a piece, and it's even like even if you don't it's obviously very very hard to write a good piece. But even if you try to write a bad piece, it's still a lot of work. It's still a lot of like notes on the page. I mean, thinking of what to write, copy editing, making part. I mean, it's still a lot of work. And so, like for
That's
me,
why, yeah.
yeah, for me, like I I am not a huge Tchaikovsky fan. I will say but I do love Mozart a lot. Um, and I listen to Mozart, and I'm happy with the music I listen to, and I can easily listen to it without having to write music in that style. And it's much easier. And for me, like if I'm gonna put in all the work, I I wouldn't say like I'm lazy, but like if it already exists, I'm just gonna go and enjoy the music. Why do I have to go through all the effort of writing the piece? So I try to write a piece which I would like to experience that hasn't been written, or I don't think someone else will just write, because if they could, then it would be easier for me to experience that.
But yeah. What do you think, Shanting?
Um, well, I I came up with this question as the title because that's the question I was asked when I took the entrance exam into my conservatory.
The Hong
So
Kong
yeah,
Conservatory or
um,
Boston? You went to Boston too, right?
yep. I'm talking about the Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that's made me think quite a bit. Yeah, if we have music by Mozart or Beethoven or Tchaikovsky, do we still need to compose something similar? Of course, the answer is negative. We don't really need to do that. However, when I was in high school, when I tried to to get into the music school, the composition program, I did
Mm-hmm.
imitate some composers out of because the teacher requested. I um I tried to enter another conservatory in China before I took the entrance exam into my alma mater, and then I did poorly.
I'm losing you,
Yeah, I am
Chanting.
too.
Hello.
I can hear.
Yeah, now you're back.
I said before I enter my alma mater in Hong Kong, I tried to get into another conservatory in China, and I failed the exam. And then the professor said, "Oh, you should study a lot of scores by Prokofiev, Scriabin, something like that," and asked me to imitate, to learn how to write like those composers. So in my final 2 years, I'm in high school. I spent quite a lot of time to imitate those pieces. I wrote quite a lot of pieces similar to Scriabin, those preludes, and now I never show people that side of my compositions. Yeah, because it's actually it's pretty shameful. Because this is when you claim that this is a piece of mine, but actually
I
everybody
don't
can
show.
I
tell.
Yeah,
mean, I feel like we
Everybody can
all
tell.
probably have
I
shameful
don't show
pieces
my
from high
opus.
school.
Yeah, no.
But I
Yeah.
think it is worse because
I don't show my opus one. I don't show my opus
Well, I
two.
show
I
my
don't.
opus one isn't actually my opus one. My opus one is probably my opus 25 or something.
Yeah,
but at least you
but you
try
know
to
what
be
I mean. Like,
original.
Yeah.
I try to imitate. It's two different things. If I try to compose my own music, but I suck, it
mm-hmm.
is I don't think it is anything to feel shameful. It's just because the craft or
Yeah.
the techniques needs some work. But if I intentionally imitate something, it is just a musical way to plagiarize.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can only work with you can work with what you know, and then you could try to ask questions and push a little bit beyond that. But like when I was young, there was I can't. I mean, I did a lot of imitation too, and I can't imagine being able to write anything, even a poor version of what I do now, because wouldn't even know. I didn't even know like contemporary music really existed. Like I had never heard anything like it at all. And so in like my head, like if I was gonna write for like the piano or something, I had it was like Mozart or Tchaikovsky or like pop music. I knew that, but like that I was never interested in doing that. So like I didn't really know I had other choices, and I maybe made some funky chord progressions in a maybe trying to be different, and but also maybe not really understanding chord progressions that well at that time, because I started
I,
composing when I was
how
very
old?
young.
How old were you?
I was like 8 when I started composing.
Wow, genius.
I mean, I started writing notes. They weren't good notes.
Well,
But
I wrote when I was taking piano lessons around that time. Like I remember writing
mhm.
scarce notes, so that may be lost. I lost composition in time, but technically it would be my first composition. Like
Yeah.
yeah, but I remember since I was young, since I was
Oh, I think
taking
mine
piano
still exists in my
lessons.
parents' house somewhere. I'm
Yeah,
afraid to dig those out.
that would be very interesting. No,
I'm
but
sure it's
I
there.
remember that since I was little, since I was taking piano lessons, there was a purpose to learning an instrument. Like it wasn't to be the best at the instrument; it was like to create. I don't know if that was the experience with you guys.
No, I was when I was younger. I think you were
You
probably
wanted
a
to
lot
be
more.
a,
Yeah, I wanted to be the best. I will have to
you
say,
wanted to be
like,
a. Okay,
I
okay.
wanted to be the best. I think I didn't start because I think trying to want to just create is probably a more mature reasoning. And I don't think I got there until like maybe 20 or so, where I thought I wanted to create something that was um meaningful to me and expressive rather than being like just the best.
So
Where
you wanted to be a virtuoso. You were wanted to be a concert pianist at
yeah,
that
yeah,
time.
or
At
yeah, a
that
kinds of
kind of.
piano, or like I was really
Okay.
into when I was little, and then I started playing horn, and I quickly surpassed my piano abilities on horn, so that kind of took the focus. Um,
But
yeah,
are there any? Well, there must be some horn virtuosi, but is there a horn repertoire? Well, you
not a
can.
good one, not a good
Not a
one,
good one.
but there is. That's not a good
But
one.
and
There's a leggedy piece that's great.
you haven't contributed to it. Why?
No, I haven't. Well, I do have some pieces when I was a little kid, um, and then I think for a long time I said I didn't wasn't interested in it because I got interested in physical movement, and the horn is a super physical instrument, but it's motions that you can't see very well. Um, and then so I didn't really work with it too much, and then now I feel like I really could work with it, and I do have a piece from that I wrote during COVID for horn, solo horn, that's probably like 3/4 of the way drafted, and then it was deserted, not because I didn't like the project, just because I got sidetracked with other projects, kind of thing. But yeah, I think a lot of it just feels like it was hard for me to like be a performer and a composer at the same time, and I think most of my teachers were like, you have to pick one or you're going to be just not very good at either. Um, and I never really could drop the horn all the way, and they were never, my composition teachers were never really supportive of me playing, and my any of my horn teachers were not really that supportive of me composing because they, wanted me to focus on one, which I think in retrospect was terrible advice and the opposite advice of what I give my students. My students, I say, learn every skill you possibly can. Learn how to run electronics, learn how to record, learn how to
Yeah.
organize a program, learn how to curate, learn how to teach, learn how to do music theory, learn early music, contemporary music, I mean, everything.
Well, yeah. The problem with that is that you might fall into too much theory or too much abstract, too much into the abstract world of composing purely, and like separate yourself from the more mundane world, the more terrenal world. Whereas the other can also happen when you specialize in being a performer, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is this is pretty old debate. This goes back to the Greeks, like pretty much. We are talking Pythagoras against Aristoxenus. Whereas one saw the music of the spheres as being the really
Mm-hmm.
valuable one, and the other one, the only one that you could hear. So
Mm-hmm.
the one in theory, in the mind, in the spheres, versus the one that we could basically touch, the more tangible one. So yeah, I I when I came back to play guitar during the last few years, I realized that I should have never like put it that far away. I should have
Mm-hmm.
never like I because I stopped for a while like practicing. I didn't give two cents, two craps about practicing. I just focused on composing, and that
Mm-hmm.
kind of like in a way it separated me from the more tangible aspect of composing, so
Mm-hmm.
of music itself. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a danger in doing that, and I don't know if that's why I remember in the seminar our old teacher kind of like always told us, Felder always told us to stick with our instruments because that kind of
Mm-hmm.
kept us grounded.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was, I think, the only teacher I ever had that wasn't like, oh, you're playing your horn a little bit, like, oh, you should just not because you should be spending more time in composition. Um, I don't like,
Well,
honestly, like I
he
was
was,
spending most of my time in composition, and just to
yeah.
play
I
my
think
horn
we
a couple hours a week, like really, that wasn't gonna make or break me as a composer.
I think we all did we kind of like focused on composition during
Hmm.
those years. How was your experience chanting?
Um, I think playing the piano can help me understand the music a little bit differently sometimes. because
Because I think that out of the three of us, you were the one that stayed more consistent with your playing throughout your.
kind of.
Wow,
Um,
that's
I
my
didn't
perception.
I didn't practice much when I did my master at NEC,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I came to Buffalo, when I attended the Chinese church, there was a former faculty from Shanghai Conservatory. Then I studied the piano with her.
Mm-hmm.
Not formally like as UB, but I study the
Mm-hmm.
piano with her very regularly. So I returned to a lot of pieces that I used to play in high school, and then I found some new perspective, not just technically but also musically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty helpful in some way, and sometimes when I mean the piano as an instrument is very helpful because you can hear the harmony, you can hear the polyphony very easily, and s- and s- and it's also helped me understand complicated music very quickly because I can just play it, or I
Uh-huh.
mean I'm used to seeing like at least two staffs or even three or four voices at a time. um, However, th- if I have some projects to do, I usually put the piano aside.
Yeah.
When I work on my dissertation, I only practice the piano a little bit in the afternoon, like maybe half an hour or an hour. But
That's still consistent playing though.
Yeah.
uh, um, but if I don't have any projects to do, maybe I practice a little more, like 2 to 3 hours maybe. Um, but most of the time, I practice pieces because I just want to explore them. I don't truly try to excel at them. For example, once upon a time, I practiced Rachmaninoff Prelude in A minor, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was mainly curious about how the composer managed the cross hand gesture because um, of course I want to play better instead of being a lousy pianist, but but I'm not piano major, so somehow I'm not very. I mean, I'm not too persistent if I have something if I encounter some huge technical challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I would say it's very helpful, especially learning some short pieces like Prelude by Shostakovich, and I like Bach. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think learning Bach helped me think about music more in a more how to say
Polyphonic.
Polyphonically.
polyphonically. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely helps, but of course we cannot imitate the same kind of counterpoints or harmonic languages. Yeah.
Well, I had to take during my bachelor's two classes on counterpoint, like uh,
Yeah, me too.
Renaissance counterpoint and Baroque, basically Bach counterpoint, and I'm ending with writing a fugue, and it unconsciously influenced my music because it turned more linear in a way, and then I kind of began writing lines, and this the composition teacher then told me, and I was like, yeah, I'm taking this class. It's like, I should kind of step back, but at the same time, back to the original question, it will be useless. Like, we didn't grow up breathing, experiencing tonality like Mozart did, for example. Like, it would be
Mm-hmm.
futile attempt at composing, or useless in a way, because we are in another context. So from the
Yeah.
very outset, it's kind of, for me, it's kind of dumb to try and
And we're talking about
write
like
it.
300 years of time too.
Yes, yes, yes,
So,
that too. But he grew up everywhere he was listening to music. It was kind of like the tonal system and the tonal harmonies and the tonal progressions. Like even now, even if we use if we refer to tonal music or pop music, it doesn't use the same languages. It doesn't use the same progressions. Sometimes it's more minimalistic. Sometimes the progressions are more like stepwise in motion, like in
Hmm.
jazz or stuff like that. In a lot of video game music too. So trying to do that is futile, I will say. But I will also say that uh, kind of learning the basics, what is he doing with the in the more abstract sense, like how is he moving the harmonies, how is he using the harmonies to shape the form of the piece. That's the useful part that we can take something away from, uh, in a
So,
way.
do you think it's any different? Like it says, why don't we compose like Mozart or Tchaikovsky if we replace them with two composers that were living at least, in the last century with us? Um,
Like Laherman, let's say, because
yeah.
Laherman was a big influence at UB, right?
Uh,
I would say,
he was, yeah, he
or
was big
no.
with us. He was big in my undergraduate at Northwestern. He was real big there too, and he was big at um, UB. He came to
Another,
UB.
I don't know if Ligeti was big on UV. For me, he
Yeah,
was big.
Feldman
For
was huge at UB,
oh,
obviously.
Feldman was huge, definitely, but not for me. I didn't really, it. I never really liked the slow pace music or
I enjoy it when I'm in the right
mood
mindset for it.
or mindset.
I can't. Yeah, not enough that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out everything he was doing, but I definitely appreciate what he does. And I've also like heard many stories. Like I think actually David Felder said like think about like a lot of times we can think of famous composers and then we can think of their famous students. And if you think of Morton Feldman, who taught,
Yes, I remember him
there's
saying that
no
in the
famous
seminar.
students
Nope.
because everyone who went to study with him wanted to imitate his music,
And
and
he
his mind was kind of super unique in the way his chords worked, um, and a second rate Feldman was really just not
that
wasn't it?
a second rate Feldman.
And
Yeah,
there wasn't going to be like, I don't think it's possible to do Morton Feldman better than Morton Feldman. Um, not
I
I
remember him using the example that he brought a student from that was into melding different styles like rock and really active music and stuff like that. And within a semester or so of study with Feldman, he was writing this slow music. Ping, tang, no, yeah, I remember that what you are referring to. Uh,
I mean, and
Chantin.
certainly
I
I think certainly some of the like I remember when I first discovered Lachenmann, I was probably 19, and I had never heard anything even remotely like that. I was pretty new to contemporary music in general. Um, and I definitely, studied a lot of his pieces, especially some of the simpler pieces that were easy for me to decipher at that point, like the cello piece Pression or the trio. Those are a little bit. The trio is a lot easier than the quartets, but like I have a couple pieces from that time period. I don't think they're super Lackaman-esque, but you can tell that I was probably listening to his music at that time and I was really excited about it because I had never really heard any kind of extended technique, and then he uses so much of it and so creative, and I was really excited about it. But yeah,
I would say, um, since we talked about our instruments like 5 minutes or 10 minutes ago, one thing that I would like to add is how we practice our instrument or how we play our instruments basically affects our musical preferences, and then that also
Definitely.
affects how we see some of the pieces that we are studying or we are trying to imitate. Um, For example, as because piano is a basically is a very pitchy instrument.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of pianists composer they tend to adopt a more pitchy language for their piece for their
Hmm.
composition. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
myself before I get to know some noise based materials or pieces, my I work on a very pitchy language too.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say how you play an instrument or how you practice an instrument definitely affects your preferences and definitely affects how you will see the pieces that you are listening or um, or you are studying.
Yeah.
Um, the first time when I heard Feldman was not a very pleasant experience.
Why?
I found it
I
very
didn't like.
slow
I had the same first experience.
and very static.
Mhm.
It sounded like nothing truly happened to me. I didn't get it. As uh, if I look back, I would say probably learning piano made me less prefer this kind of music because I usually learn things that are very active, having a lot of mm, pitches, maybe even heroic if because I play a lot of like romantic pieces. And when I hear Feldman, I felt like not 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Nothing happened. So many notes. I mean, so little notes. Uh, after 10 minutes or 15 minutes, it sounds like it has less notes than one page of my Chopin or Rachmaninoff. What is he doing? So and it is also the same when I first listened to like Lachman or something like that. I say, so many
So,
noise,
so
very hard.
would you say that
Mhm.
those are those composers or those compositions are more like acquired tastes,
I won't say that.
an acquired taste in a way?
I won't
No,
say
you
that.
wouldn't
I
say
won't
that.
say that. I but I believe our upbringing shape everything. Just imagine if you are forced to listen to 10 hours of Palestrina. I don't know how you will take it. Maybe you like it, but maybe you will fall asleep, and then you don't get
Mhm.
what he tried to tell us. You you only know, oh, this music's for mass, for whatever religious events,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but probably you may not like it. If it is so traditional, but you don't truly like it, maybe, or
Mhm.
maybe you like it, but you don't like it like the people from Renaissance. I don't I don't think tonal music or noise-based experimental music. I don't think they are acquired taste or they are something that we can like very intuitively. I don't think so. I just think that um, more we listen to it, maybe we have a affinity to this music,
Mhm.
and then and then we may like it better, or maybe we will do it when we compose it, we may imitate it subconsciously.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of people don't take the time to. They hear something like a lock and mine or something, and they've never heard music like that,
Yeah.
and they immediately just turn it off because the sound is so foreign, and they feel uncomfortable. And but I think for me, like, and I think I remember being very bored the first time I heard Morton Feldman. I was probably maybe like 20, and I I thought it was very boring. But I also like something I don't, and same with Lachenmann, but like I would other people that I respected were talking in very intelligent ways, and it was interesting aesthetically, but I couldn't really figure out like why was I not enjoying these experiences, and it kind of led me to actually want to study these scores and these pieces because I wanted to like be concretely be able to say I thought it would make me be able to concretely say like, oh, I don't like Lachenmann because of blank, because of my initial reaction, I didn't like it immediately. Um, but I still wanted to dive in. And then when I was in both cases with Morton Feldman and with Lachenmann, as I dived in to try to discover why I don't like this music, I discovered that I did once I actually let myself look into this music and decipher it and listen to it more and get more comfortable, I guess, in those sound spaces. Um, yeah, but it can be hard because I think a lot of people are, if people aren't willing to listen to new sounds, then they all they get is Mozart and Tchaikovsky and things that they know.
Well, but I will guess I was the only one that when I first heard Lahenman, I was really captivated by him and by his soundboard and how he didn't sound like anybody else. I was immediately hooked. I wanted to see how he scored things. I wanted to see his scores. I wanted to see a lot of like learn more and more about his music. So it also depends on where you are on your journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a composer,
I think I
because
Yeah.
like Lackaman much better nowadays. In the past, I didn't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I was 19 when I first was introduced to Lackaman, and I think I knew very very little about contemporary music, and I would say maybe just in the year previously I started to be introduced to um, a few pieces, but a lot of the more like conservative type of composer, like that, at least by composers that were alive. Um, but I really didn't know anything about contemporary music. And then I think once I started appreciating and learning, I got so excited because I was like, I've been studying music and like that's been my main focus since I was 7 years old. And at that point, it was 12 years. And I'm
hmm
like, then there's still music, not only music that I don't know, but music I've never even heard of. Um, that's completely 100% unfamiliar, and that was super exciting for me.
it's like being excited about music again. Like
Yeah.
you kind of think you know everything there is to know or have heard everything there is to hear, and no, there's a world opens up to you. But what I will say about Feldman is like somebody that wrote similarly from one point onwards was Salvatore Sciarrino, right? Are you guys familiar with Sciarrino?
Hmm.
But in a way, I was more interested. I was captivated by Sharino in a way that I wasn't by Feldman, and I think that there were some nuances to how Sharino wrote music.
Hmm.
Like he used little um, um, deviations, little developments, little changes here and there that you cannot find in Feldman's music, for example, that kind of like captivated me and I
Yeah.
was more interested. But that's just me. Like to a general listener, to a general audience, I will say that Sharino and Feldman are very similar, right? Or
I
no?
mean, to me, I would never think that and put them together. But I think you're right that on a sonic level, if you're just gonna play a few moments, they both have a similar, delicate, slow, quiet kind of sound palette they like to draw from. But I
hmm
think in terms of like the forms and their development of their pieces are
Yeah.
very
Okay.
different.
There
But
you
yeah,
go. Yeah, definitely. Anything just you wanna say something?
yeah.
Huh? Huh?
I don't know how to start.
Why?
Yeah.
Okay, while you think about it, I wanna say that there's we have talked like in a way negatively, you might say, about imitating other music, but I will say there are some positives to it
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah, I agree.
uh,
Yeah.
like I if I had not learned about ligeti, I wouldn't have developed my own language. If
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have started to at least imitate some aspects of ligeti at some point as a composer, I wouldn't have been able to develop my own language uh,
Sure.
later on.
I would
But does
say
that
So
really work as a is that really like I don't know because I definitely had the same experience where like I think it's and I recommend like my students when they're interested to imitate sometimes because that's how we learn like different techniques. And I mean there's definitely positives, but it from an educational standpoint really I think like is it really us being ourselves or is it like us learning to be a better composer?
I think I believe it requires a mix of imitation and um and some kind of so-called real composition. If, by imitation, we learn a lot of techniques, just like what Megan said.
will do you mean intentionality?
I mean, at least you intentionally try to create something of
Okay.
your own language. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
that's I call it like let's say real composition. I don't know how to call it. Okay, but the imitation
No,
is
will composition will be a nice
Mm-hmm.
concept to develop,
yeah.
I would say.
But
Will
imitation
composition.
is good in
Mm-hmm.
the sense that you learn some techniques or you can single out some particular aspects of music and you learn to make good use of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my at the beginning when I talk about my past experience of imitation, I would say the problem was I tried to use it as some pieces for the exam. I felt a little bit
Which
dishonest.
exam?
Yeah,
Eh,
for the entrance exam, I brought those pieces that I
but
imitated
what
as grabbing.
for what school are you referring to?
The Hong Kong
Oh,
Academy
okay, okay,
Okay.
Performance
okay, okay.
Arts.
So you were quite young though when you
Yes,
wrote
Yes,
these.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's why that.
Yeah.
But but when I look back, because at that point I didn't know much, so imitation definitely helped me understand those harmonies, those texture better. Um, After years of practicing the piano, however, I would say practicing the instrument helped me learn those things actually faster. And I built a more personal connection to those ideas. I, be- I repeated and repeated a lot of ideas by practicing it on the piano. Um, in contrary, when I try to imitate, let's say, whatever short piece by scrubbing, I did it too quickly.
You
I
told me
didn't
about
think
Scrabble.
much, and then
Hmm.
those imitation didn't. I mean, didn't allow me enough time to truly dive into those pieces, and I couldn't see a lot of impacts um, to my musical growth.
Oh, I see what you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna ask because you
However,
didn't.
I would
Uh huh.
say it's like a quick fix, like a quick, like a very like a crash course for me. I would put it this way. Maybe some composition teachers, some students don't agree.
I think that
And
expressionism, like the Vienna school, was that for me. What you were describing, it was like a really quick fix, because of course we all learn within a tonal system or tonal forms, etc., etc. That's what we usually learn first, and expressionism was like the opposite, and it was like, oh, it was
Mm-hmm.
the more of the shock value that I got from it, but I didn't really uh, got into it in such a way that it really helped me. develop my own language. Like, for example, for Feldman, there was this story of Feldman listening to the Opus 21 of Webern, I believe, and he had to get out of the concert hall because he was overwhelmed by the music itself, right? Was
Mhm.
it Feldman?
I don't know if I know the
Don't know.
story.
No story. I believe it was in the New York premiere, and I believe it was Feldman, and I forget the other composer. But he never wrote like none of them wrote like Weber. It was just the shock that you could reach this point of intensity. You could get out of the box in such a way that and develop your own language that you could reach new heights, let's say, or new modes of expression. So that's what it
Well,
is about in a way. That's what I think that yeah, that's the value of exploring, of studying masterpieces in a way, of studying the masters, the old masters, or whatever you may say. It's like uh, what can uh, they teach you as musicians, not what the pieces may teach you, but what experience do you get out of the music itself in
But
the end.
one thing that I suddenly figure out is um, there are lots of students or a lot of friends who play the music, but they don't truly think much about the music itself.
oh,
Yeah,
mhm.
there are lots of them, such as for example, some students they never shape their melody, never think about never correct their wrong notes. They definitely won't get a lot from learning a piece. But there are also some students who learn a lot. They learn a lot by thinking about the thinking a lot, think about the pieces they're working on. Then perhaps they can learn some composition by playing the pieces, and then they take the idea, and then they can work on their projects. But yeah, but if you are not thinking at all, if you don't use your head at all while practicing pieces, then perhaps having an imitation assignment can help you seriously look into the pieces or the style or the language.
Mhm.
Yeah, I truly believe it depends on what kind of person is learning
Mhm.
is learning composition. I used to have a friend. We never contact each other now, but he kept on imitating pieces, and then later on when the professor asked him what he truly wanted to compose, he had no idea. He just replied, "Oh, I wanted to imitate a composer. I forgot the name." I and then he said he believed he need to work on particular techniques, particular language.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, he would like to imitate another composer. And I
I think.
am
Uh-huh.
so somehow I would say it's like for me I was it's like a lesson or kind of like a reminder that as a composer we still need to keep our soul free
Mhm.
from those imitations. We try our best to avoid any direct or, um, or any direct imitation or repetition, because we got to understand what we are trying to compose.
I think that the value that we can get out of is trying to get into the head of the composer. What was he trying to achieve? And there is where we can get some influence, like not from the style, not from the superficial aspect, not from the gestures even,
Mhm.
but from the compositional process, the thinking process, the creative process. And I think that Megan can talk more about this because her music is kind of like is not really very related to other pieces or to other composers. It's very innovative in that sense.
I mean, I think for me, it's just like, I mean,
How
I remember when I was first starting to write pieces that were like myself, and how kind of freeing that was, just to be like super open and honest in my music and just be like myself. Um, and I think also it comes down to composition is really hard, and it does not lead to lucrative anything. Um, which,
our type of composition.
yes, even most composition though, I would, for the most people, I mean, I think it's rare in general, but yeah, definitely our type of composition. And so like, if I'm not going to really have fun, like why would I do it? And I remember, because I really like to do hands-on type of things, like in my, especially in the early stages of composition. I like to build instruments, I like to make sound, I like to make sounds on instruments I play and instruments I don't play. And a lot of times I remember at UB I would do that, like I would do it like just in my office, and our doors would usually be open. There'd be lots of different people coming in and out. And several occasions people would be like, oh wow, I'm like jealous of like the project you're writing because you seem like you're having so much fun. And I thought that was the oddest comment, because I'm like, if you're jealous because I'm having fun, then you should find something else that you're going to have fun to do. If you're, that seems like a really silly thing to be jealous about. Um,
Were you having fun? Were you having fun,
oh,
Shanting? Were we having fun? Or are we
I
remembering
don't,
with nostalgia? Because there was a lot of pain. There
there
was a
was,
lot
I
of
mean, it's for me too.
complaining.
But not, there was, I think for me, there was challenges about being in like an environment with a lot of people trying to get like the similar types of opportunities, and um that presented challenges at times. But like, when it was just me in a room like trying to make my art, like, it didn't always go well. Sometimes it went a lot better than others, but like I always had fun doing it. um
Okay, okay.
and like, I don't know, at the end of the day, like, really the worst thing that you can happen is you fail and you write a piece of music that is bad or doesn't work, and then, like, really, who cares? Just then go write another one, like another piece. Like, it's, I don't know, that when, and I've learned to love that about music, is that I feel like music has high rewards. I think music can be really impactful. um at least for me, like if I hear a piece that um is really like something I've never heard and is really interesting and like profoundly written, I'm like on a high, and my brain, it's just like the best. But like bad music is doesn't really, there's not a big negative.
I have a question. Have you guys?
I was gonna ask you something, but okay, yeah, you ask, you ask.
Oh, okay. Have
No,
you ever thought of composing something that you believe you will never compose? For example, if what happened if Megan tries to compose, let's say, an ensemble piece that you cannot do anything with the cardboard, or you cannot build any instruments, or
Yeah,
or or I have to compose an ensemble piece that I must use a graphic notation, and I have to incorporate improvisation, for example. I don't know, and then
yeah.
yeah, because I never use improvisation, so somehow it's a way to force me to do it. If 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 Mr. Felder suddenly contact me and, hey, Chunting, let's do some improvisation. I don't know how. Well, I don't know whether I will accept that, but have you ever thought of composing something that you used
Oh,
you never want to compose?
I feel like I do a lot. um that, and I think I do try to accept projects that don't seem quite in my wheelhouse sometimes because it does kind of push me to explore different things. But like I remember one time David Felder, he I don't remember which song it was. I think I don't know. I don't remember which ensemble it was, but there was an ensemble coming, and he wanted me to write a piece for a reading, and I wrote a piece for cello, flute, and percussion, and he wanted the piece to be easily learned, like learned like within a reading session, which is what like usually 20 minutes or so. Um, but not lose my character and be as like Megan as possible. Um,
I missed that deadline. I remember.
yeah.
I failed him. I failed myself. Really. Yeah, I remember that.
And I did have fun doing it, and I think it. I don't know if it was my. It definitely wasn't my. I don't know if it's my best piece or my most interesting piece, but it was a piece that I think it worked for the scenario, and I think it did sound like my music. So it was successful in that way, and it did tell me like, oh, I can write, for different scenarios, and like since I've written pieces for um, some of my students who, for the most part, are pretty, they're young, they're teenagers, and they're pretty proficient on their instruments, but they have zero experience with contemporary music, and they're very, very like, conservative, like conservatory trained. Um, so I've done that, and I mean, I think the piece I write for them is very different than what I might write for, like Bobby and Jason playing on the cardboard. Not the same pieces, but I still, try to make it me, and rather than it doesn't suddenly become, tonal either. But I kind of, and there are times when I feel like I've accepted projects and not done that well either. Like I've accepted projects and then not had an idea that maybe didn't work for that project and just decided to go anyway, and then it didn't, wasn't so successful. I've done that a couple times too. But I think, I think it can be a way to expand what you're able to do and maybe see new facets of yourself. But I don't think it makes but like in the end of the day, I always want it to make it sound like my music. There's some kind of thread. It's not going to be like all of a sudden be like, oh, turn into Morton Feldman or something.
I asked that question because our memory, our preferences help us compose in our current language or style,
Mm-hmm.
and actually that's also the result of our so-called imitation in the past. We imitated, let's say, Lachman, so that we will compose maybe we will compose a little bit more in very noise-based material. If you imitate a lot of Bach, maybe you want to write a lot of counterpoint. I don't know, but somehow imitation or practicing, somehow it's shape our preferences and
Mm-hmm.
memory, and that force us or help us compose in a particular way.
Yeah, I
Therefore,
agree.
the other way is to force ourselves to work against these uh, preferences or memory. For example,
Yeah.
what if I work with object like Megan? Oh, Megan music is so interesting. Then and then somehow maybe I get to know a percussionist, and then hey, let's play with some object. Let's play with some pebbles and stones, and then but at the same time, I need a lot of pitches. So hey, let's get another pianist to join the game. But
Mm-hmm.
the pianist must play with the paper too. Let's whip off some pages from my music sheets. Okay, thank you. So, yeah, maybe the result will be pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, I in a seminar, actually I said I I truly admire Stravinsky because he did a lot of
I do.
things and they
I
are
do.
very
Hmm.
diverse. Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know. I when Megan talk about various stuff, I suddenly wonder, hey, perhaps I could work on something like that, but of course not the same way.
Hmm.
Maybe and actually, I had a friend called Patrick. Actually, Juan also knows him. He 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 constantly asked me to write pieces that incorporates improvisation. I always reject. I always say no, 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 no,
Hmm.
no.
I don't think
Be-
I've ever done anything with improvisation.
I just feel like it is not my stuff. I want to write out everything.
Yeah.
Hmm. I've
I
opened up to improvisation, but very, very slowly, and it's not. It's very controlled improvisation almost all the time. Um, yeah, but I have opened up to it. Yeah.
So you were saying something? Yeah. We let
maybe after today I try to say yes to him if he's still
after
open
today.
for me.
Okay.
Yeah. But I
Well,
mean, I
that
think there's a way to like shape improvisation, for example, and still make it sound like your music because you can have improvisation, but you could have improvisation doesn't have to be every single component is improvised either. Like you could have
yeah,
specific
control.
pitch classes, and then maybe um, a description of a texture, and then the texture is improvised. Or whatever. But you don't
Like,
have to have it be like, oh, just do whatever you want here.
like Lutoslawski, you said you had we were talking about Lutoslawski the other day, right,
Mhm.
Shanting?
Yeah.
And like he used control aleatory textures. I think that's what it's called. It's not completely aleatoric,
Mhm.
completely improvised. So that's how he reached those results that sound like Lutoslawski in the end.
I mean, it's
He
different than like John Cage. I can still remember
definitely,
David
definitely.
David Felder's telling the story where, him and John Cage had a program together. It was just one piece of Cage and one piece of Felder's, and the ensemble decided to play it continuously with no pause. And at the end, John Cage went up to Felder and said, "Congratulations on your piece. Which one was yours?" Because he wasn't sure which one was his own. Um,
And that was by Felder,
that was John Cage. No, John Cage said that.
John Cage. Oh,
John
to
Cage said that to David Felder. And it
oh,
was just one piece of Cage and one piece of Felder with no
okay.
pause in between.
I think that from Lutoslawski it's called limited aleatorism, at
Mm-hmm.
least in his later period. Probably you can start there and then go into something more complex if you wanna go down that
Mm-hmm.
route. I don't wanna explore anything of that, especially now. Probably in my 20s, I might have, but now I don't care much about it.
And it's also like, I mean, I think for the most part, I usually write for specific performers, um, and once in a while I might have a second performer in the piece, but not a lot, and not enough for me to write a piece with it in mind to make it work for another performer. Um, and I really take the original person's like their personality in mind. And like the piece I'm writing now is for keyboard synthesizer for one of my good friends, Andrew Jamison, who's the most incredible like improviser. But I know him super super well as a musician, and I trust what he would do with it. And then still, so I'm definitely have spots that are have much more interpretation than I've ever written in my music, but it's still controlled. It's not just kind of do whatever you want. But I would be very nervous giving it to somebody else. I would say about what they might do with it because I have ideas of probably how I know him well enough that I kind of have ideas about how he might respond. Uh,
A- and you're still having fun. Would you, Shantin, be having fun while writing that
yeah.
piece?
I don't
Shantin,
know.
yeah,
I have to I have to write it and try it.
okay.
Yeah.
Because
I
if you don't have that motivation, then it will become a slug, kind of a drag, and probably you might not even finish it. Uh, you have
Yeah.
to think about that too.
I was
but
also thinking like what aspects are really important to you to get in music to get correct or not correct to control,
oh
and then what aspects are maybe less.
but by the way, I suddenly remember one thing. Last year I had a commission to write for bass clarinet and marimba, sponsored by the Hong Kong Composers Guild, and then
Did I hear this piece?
yeah, the slow music.
Mm,
Yeah,
where do you have it? In SoundCloud,
I think I had it on YouTube,
YouTube?
perhaps. Yeah,
What's it
um,
called?
slow.
Slow music?
Yeah,
Okay,
fast or
then
slow
let me
music,
search for it.
and
Something.
yeah, and I in the middle of the composition process, I suddenly got another piece to write, and that a piece for 7 musicians. Because of that project, I suddenly believe I needed to invest more time on that slightly bigger ensemble piece, and then I totally forgot I
What was
had a
the
commission
my bad. Sorry for interrupting. What was the instrumentation?
for the slow music,
Yeah.
bass clarinet and marimba,
Okay.
and and I didn't compose much, and then I received an email from the Composer Guild,
How was that?
and because I didn't complete my commission, oh, and 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 the email read a little bit angry, so oh, I don't know whether I should share this part of the story, but anyway,
Sounds like
and
fun to me.
then I just found, oh, I can't make it. Shit, just repeat it. Just repeat it. Just repeat
The
10
same
times.
piece. The same. Oh, oh. Okay.
I
So
had a lot of
it
repetition.
became a minimalist piece in a way.
And then the performer later on, before the concert, she held a like pre-concert talk, and then she said, "Oh, this is a minimal piece," and then and then I didn't know whether I was happy because I liked the piece, or I was able to complete the piece. I was very late. I was like 2 weeks late, 2 weeks or 3 weeks late. And then the first time I heard the piece, because I didn't attend the concert, so I got the recording from the concert. The first time I heard it was on my way home after I went to emergency room.
Why did you go to the
I
emergency room?
forgot. I went there for multiple times last year. But it's my problem, not my family. So it's better. I suddenly felt
I
sick.
cannot
Yeah,
find the piece. I cannot find the piece
yeah. Maybe
anywhere.
I look for it later. But I just want to say, sometimes um, a forced exploration of an unknown terrain could be quite
Oh,
good.
no, it's not the Nocturno for
So at the end,
Nocturno con fuoco. No.
did you
I
like
actually
the
I
piece?
like the piece. I even showed the piece
Okay.
in a master class. Uh-huh. Yeah, I find it okay. It's 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 not so bad. I thought it would turn out to be pretty embarrassing, and then oh, it's okay. it's acceptable. It's
If the
like you.
performers were like, "Oh, hey, we want to play this again," would you have them play the same version, or would you edit the piece?
I I think I don't
That's a
mind them
good
playing the same thing. I
question.
in the rehearsal, in the Zoom rehearsal, I told them, you can change a little bit during in those repetitions. You could feel free to change a little bit. I tell them it's like a swimming pool. I didn't know why I came up with such a terrible an analogy because when I composed the piece, I didn't think about swimming pool, swimming, or not even jogging. I only thought about please finish the piece in 3 days. I got a complaint from the secretary. Please finish it. I only thought about this, and then in the rehearsal, I talk about swimming pool.
And if it would be more feasible if it were your instrument to finish a piece in that period of time. Like I've done pieces for guitar in like a week, like and they came out more or less good for my standard. I will say, but yeah, it was for bass, clarinet, and marimba, so
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of
Yeah,
hard.
I think I found it, but it is in the in the concert.
Mm-hmm.
So
If you allow them to make changes on the repeats, then isn't aren't they doing
Can
some
you
improvisation?
can you put it in the private chat?
here.
There's a private chat in the on the right.
Oh yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, there you go. Give me a second.
I I I don't know
I can share it.
the
Oh, I see
you
it.
you need to go to the timestamp. It's a little bit embarrassing, but I I I I I mean I thought it would be pretty embarrassing, but
Is the timestamp 32? Yeah,
20,
yeah.
23:53.
So so kawaii so kawaii walk 2?
Not that one,
No.
not that one. Uh
Oh, Passion Teen slow music. Okay,
yeah,
here we go.
yeah.
Let's listen to some of it.
You won't recognize my music here. But yeah, feel free to check it out.
Yeah. So is this piece like going to be a standalone piece, or are there ideas in this piece that you would wish to explore again?
Actually, I composed several pieces that I explore so-called some self contradictory
This
idea.
sounds nothing like. Yeah.
I didn't hear it here.
So
I don't hear
minimalistic
you
for
either.
you. You can listen to it, Mesgan?
No,
No?
I see it, but I can't hear the sound from it.
No?
No,
Weird.
you need to you maybe you
Neither
need
of you?
Mm-mm.
uh,
Give me a second.
maybe it's a way to save me from further embarrassment.
Well, I have the link, so I
Uh,
can listen to it later.
Yeah.
yeah.
Since it is quiet now, I remember one instance in my college that I was asked to conduct a French string quartet, and there was a huge chord, and then the reason for a string quartet to be conducted was the lack of time. So I was asked to conduct a string quartet, very strange, and then there was a huge chord. So I made a huge gesture. Nobody played anything. That yeah.
I'm trying to get this to be heard. Let's see now. Uh, if not, it's fine.
By the way,
Trying to.
it's so happy
Hello.
to hear Megan's voice.
Yeah, it's good to connect with both of you too.
No sound?
No
No.
sound.
Hmm. Probably I have to look into that. Okay.
Maybe
It's fine.
maybe you can listen to it later, but yeah, warning is you won't recognize a typical chanting's music in this piece. But I'm not ashamed. I'm not
Hmm.
ashamed. I
But
actually
we
I'm
could listen to
okay.
your we could listen to your music when I shared the screen, right, Megan?
No,
No,
no.
no.
I just thought you were looking at for the visual, like to show what the piece looks
You
like.
can only
I can just play a random YouTube video and then you couldn't hear me. I guess.
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I'll have to look at the live stream and see if it's different and from that
yeah,
end. But
yeah. That's fine. Okay, that's fine.
yeah.
I have to look into this too.
Would
Part of the
you would this
nuances and
new
the
like
details. Uh huh.
music be like what you want to go forward with this, or is it just something you wanted to explore?
It's like a motive being repeated over and over again,
Yeah.
and going from one instrument to the other. You didn't change the motive from one instrument to the other. At least at the beginning, right, Chanting?
Yeah, they do the same thing in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I I actually I wrote a proposal that something um yeah, and then I try my best to follow my bullshit, and then
Mm-hmm.
but of course I put in a lot of repetition to save my ass, and then yeah, I have never composed a piece that fast. Thank you. Thank you to the inventors of repeat sign.
Well, it got played and it was commissioned, so you can put it in your CV or something.
That's why I didn't get another commission. That's my regret.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I don't feel too bad about that. And then it's okay. It's okay. There are moments that we composer need to do something that we don't truly want to do, but um but we try to be a little bit less embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I find myself very I find myself unprofessional when I receive the emails, not just one, like two or three emails from the secretary. And then I tried my best to extend the deadline again and again. And then I just felt I needed to complete it. I actually my expectation level was the lowest at that time. So I was pretty shocked when I heard it and I found it okay. It's like a huge relief. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, still no sound.
Yeah, don't worry about that. I don't think it's a huge part of this episode. I believe the main takeaway is sometimes we are forced to do things that we don't want to do,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe I actually want to do what I wrote on the proposal, but somehow because of some constraints, some
Mm-hmm.
circumstances, we are not going to do it fully.
Mm-hmm.
And when we try to work against the intuition or the initial concepts, somehow we are avoiding direct imitation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When I think if you're gonna try to write music that isn't an imitation, there is probably a higher chance of failure. Um, I think you have to kind of be okay with the fact that not every piece is going to be successful or successful to and it depends how you think of successful, because I have pieces that maybe the pieces are not that good, but I learned something from them and it's successful in a different way, for my progression as a composer, but maybe not as a piece. Oh, I can't hear you, Juan.
Oh,
Okay, now
now,
I can hear you.
now, it's like being a scientist, right? I would say, like, it might explode in your head, in your face, but at least you learn that it doesn't work,
Mhm.
or it could work until one point, but
Mhm.
not enough, right?
Yep.
Somehow we don't compose like Mozart or Tchaikovsky, but somehow we compose maybe 1% or 0.5% like Mozart or Beethoven.
I
Yeah.
mean, we were talking about collaboration last week, and that's one of the benefits of collaboration is that you can
Yeah,
experiment
trial and
and
error.
have those failures happen in the practice room instead, and
Yes.
then figure it out. Um,
Yeah.
and there's definitely a higher chance of success.
Yep. Definitely.
But uh, what did you learn from this in the end, Shunting?
Means
I was the only one that could listen, right?
and oh, if I stay positive, I would say
Very weird piece. Very weird piece for
I would
you, I would
say
say. Uh huh.
I'm not that afraid of repetition now. Actually, I use repetition, but I didn't use it like 10 times, 12 times. And
This
I
was 2022. I didn't listen to it. I
I was
haven't listened to.
afraid of repetition to the point that I was not only afraid of writing the repeat signs. I was even afraid of writing out repetition. I don't
I
want
c-
to write
yeah, I know what
things
you
out
mean.
repeat. I don't want to write the same thing like um like again. If I write something in 3 4 times, maybe the next maybe if I want to repeat it, I will try my best to make it like 3 4. I mean like 4 4 5 4. I try my best to change it,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow it is unnecessary. I mean that's episode in my life made me understand. Oh, actually it's fine. We could repeat. Why not? This actually is fine. And when I presented the piece in a master class, and then the teacher said, "Oh, maybe you can cut and paste randomly. It may also work. I believe so. I believe so. Repetition is powerful. Yeah, I
Mhm.
like it. I like using repetition now. I'm a
Mhm.
huge fan of it. But not 10 times. Maybe 5 times.
But
Yeah.
I think that repetition is more ingrained in American, North American, in United States music, right?
Oh, by the
Like,
way, so,
uh huh.
sorry. I use a lot of repetition for the rock paper scissors. While you listen to that piece on SoundCloud,
Possibly.
yeah, rock paper scissors. I had like a lot of repetitions, but I cut it to 5 or 6. I had a lot of repetitions anyway. I'm addicted. Yeah, addicted like potato chips.
I
You
have to learn how to. I always like your metaphors. Yeah, I have to learn how to share audio now. I didn't know. I thought that the audio that you could listen to the audio last time, Megan, but now I
No.
know that you couldn't. Hmm. I was under that impression the whole time. So now that's something for me to learn.
Yeah.
Oh well. Um. So, what can we learn about masterpieces? Actually, I'm going tomorrow to see the symphony orchestra, and they are
Ah.
playing Don Juan from Strauss, which I don't like Strauss music. I've never liked his music, but I think there's something I can learn from his orchestration,
Mhm.
actually, because he always dealt with the orchestra and stuff like that. And they are playing Ravel's Rhapsody Español, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Something Espanol, something Spanish. And Ravel, I kind of like. I kind of appreciate him and stuff. But also, I'm gonna be fixated on the orchestration aspect more than anything else. So
Mhm.
yeah, even with music that one might not enjoy, like Strauss specifically, I think one can absorb from the thinking process. One can recognize, and this ties to what I was talking with Megan last time, that even if one doesn't like the music, one can recognize the architecture or the artisany, the craftsmanship aspect of it, right?
Sometimes, I mean, yeah, I mean, but there's also music that I think we all have heard before that we would maybe
Never.
say don't have any craft, you know? um,
Are you thinking of something specific?
no, not something specific, but I mean, I sat in many concerts that had pieces that there's pieces that maybe I didn't get right away, and I'm like, oh, there's more here that
Mm-hmm.
for me to appreciate, and there's other pieces that I feel like there isn't any more here, and there's nothing here.
You know, I felt like that with when I first heard, and the second time I heard, and well, it gets played so much. Birdie's Requiem, it gets so
Mhm.
much praise and so much recognition, and it gets played so much. But I personally cannot get anything out of it. The same with Shostakovich, and I think that
Me too.
this is where I differ with Chonting, because I think that Chonting really likes Shostakovich, right?
You're right. I'm a huge fan of him. Yeah. Sorry, I like Harry Potter.
I mean, and I just like I mean, a lot of horn players love Shostakovich because he writes really good parts and things, but the
Uh huh.
parts don't really work well for the instrument.
Ouch.
And I feel
Ouch.
like that's the case for a lot of his instrument, like a lot of other people in ensembles that I've played. Tchaikovsky have the same feeling about. It just feels really awkward, and I don't feel like the awkwardness adds to what he's trying to convey.
Like you are no with Tchaikovsky. Like
I mean, I
no, you
wouldn't
can.
refuse to
This
listen. I wouldn't refuse to listen to his music, and I do think I do think there is things I could dive into and probably appreciate about Tchaikovsky, but he
but
wouldn't be
yeah,
one I would be like, oh my gosh, I want to go see Tchaik 4 today. And
yeah.
it
No,
wouldn't be one I would necessarily be excited about playing
for me,
or repeat.
it's Shostakovich. Tchaikovsky, there are some things here and there, especially in the ballets, because yeah,
Yeah,
it's dance
I
music, and I could see what he was trying to do, like, or his thinking process, his creative process
yeah.
through that. But his
you
symphonies and stuff like that, no, I
you you
think
make
more or
you
less
made
like you.
you are making me feel a little bit miserable as a piano teacher. I have to
Why?
deal with Tchaikovsky quite constantly.
Yeah, I think his
Yeah.
Oh,
writing for piano is quite a bit better than
Yeah.
his symphonies.
From the easier pieces to the crazy virtuosic pieces, we need to deal with them. Not very happy, but not too sad. Yeah, Tchaikovsky is our old folk. Sorry, Tchaikovsky. I
well,
I
whereas we
usually
like it or not, he's there in the canon of Western music, like an established
Hmm.
composer. Like
usually
everybody
after
has to learn about him, even
Hmm.
more so than Strauss, that I mentioned
Yeah, I would
earlier.
say
Like
too.
I will say that you have to learn his music, or even like get acquainted with his music. Like
But I
but
mean,
I think as a composition major, I believe we can learn much more from Strauss. I like the
yeah.
overlapping phrases. I like the phrasing. That's a lot of layers they overlap and they create a lot of kind of very complicated texture. I like
mhm.
Strauss better than Tchaikovsky, to be honest. After
But
teaching a day
that's
of
like,
piano, I won't listen to Tchaikovsky, but I don't mind listening to Strauss. Yeah.
I think that, that's the mainstream Russian tradition, that the conservatory, the one that was trying to appeal to Germany and stuff. But you also have this the other tradition, the Rimsky-Korsakov, the Stravinsky, but even the Russian futurists. Have you guys heard about Alexander Mosolov, for example?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I really liked him. Like his piano concerto, it doesn't get played that much. The only piece that he's known for is Sorobot, whatever, the Iron Factory one. That's for orchestra. And there's kind of like, yeah, this unheard tradition of Russian music, or less known or less conservatory, like less played nowadays. Um, yeah, I think that we are kind of like going back towards a new tonality, but just in a way. I don't know how to explain it. You live in New York, Shantin. You live in Manhattan, so
Mm-hmm.
you can
Brooklyn.
tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know much. I have to admit that. I
You
don't go
don't
to
go
concert
there.
nowadays. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
I'm
I go to
sorry
some,
to admit
but
that.
I go to much more contemporary music concerts than I do classical. I went
Mm-hmm.
to I saw the Jack String Quartet play last night. Um,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
jealous.
they were
yeah,
there.
yeah.
That's
It
pretty
is the first
cool.
time. I mean, I first time I've heard them since they were at UB. Um,
And what are they playing now?
a lot.
What
They
did they
played.
play? What did they play last night?
They played. So now um, P, the quartet has one of the violinists and cellists changed since we were at University of Buffalo, and
Okay, say they're turning into our deity then.
one of the violinists, Austin Wellman, who I knew he was a master student at Northwestern when I was there, so I've known him for a long time. He has always been a performer, but recently he started getting into composition. So they played a piece of his, and then they played a piece of the other violinist, Chris Odo, who I know his background is actually more composition, but then his career has been more as a performer. Um, but it was like a piece that was very much it was very much inspired by Renaissance music. Um,
So modal music, in a way.
it was more like Art Atelier kind of stuff.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it was cool, but it was it was cool, but it kind of almost felt like
Juxtaposition
an
over
exercise a little bit.
juxtaposition.
Um, and then they played a piece of Amy Williams, which was
I don't know her.
yeah, it was a very cool piece. And then they played a quartet by John Zorn. Um, it was not the Tale of Nine Cats. It was they didn't have a program, so they said stuff. And then they played Xenakis Tetris.
I like that piece,
Yeah, that was
but
awesome. That was their last piece. I've heard them play it before, but it was probably 18 years ago. So and that was an amazing concert for me when they played it 18 years ago. So it brought back a lot of good memories.
with one of you, I think that with shunting, I mentioned a sextet of percussion from probably Gerard Grisey. It wasn't Gerard Grisey, the one we listened to at UV. It was from Xenakis. I remember
Okay.
the one that surrounded us, and it was also
Oh,
amazing.
yeah.
Xenakis, yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
think,
has pieces like that. He's
but he has such a
architect.
huge output. Yeah,
Mhm.
he
Oh yeah.
has such a huge output. So many pieces, so many cool pieces. But we should talk about him sometime.
Yeah. I mean that piece is really I don't know, and one of those that piece, I remember I was sitting there and being contemporary music gets bad rap, and Xenakis is not Xenakis Tetris is not, I don't, especially for the time it was written, is not conservative at all, and it uses a lot of different composition techniques, and it's very different from Mozart or Tchaikovsky, but it's so exciting and engaging. I just can't imagine someone sitting there and being like, no, I can't get anything out of this. This is contemporary music. It just seems I don't know. To me,
He was so
so
prolific and
exciting.
so many good pieces. So prolific. Xenakis was a phenomenon.
And for me, like,
Definitely.
why it did take me a little bit to get into Lachenmann or Feldman. It did not. The first time I heard Xenakis, it was like, wow. It was not like a. It was always. I mean, I think there was like, oh my gosh, I gotta figure out more. But it was. I was excited the very first time.
What do you think about Xenakis chanting? I think I should listen to him more to get more out of him because I've enjoyed everything he does. Every time I listen to his music, I
It was
cannot say
incredible.
anything
And
wrong
they
about
like,
him.
and they had the seats set. It was a smaller venue, and it was like sold out. And they had the seats. They had like extra seats set up on this, like on the. It's kind of was like a, the stage is level and the seats go up, and so they had extra chairs like on the seats. And I'm like, you know what? In a string quartet, I feel like the closer you sit, the better. Like, so I was very close to them, like physically, for the whole concert, which was really incredible.
Hmm.
And I happen to be like it gave a new perspective too, because I happen to be the closest to the violist, and a lot of times the viola sound gets lost compared to the violins and the cello. Um,
Just because of the physics of sound, he's in the
yeah,
right in the
I
middle.
heard so much more viola than I typically do, which was kind of a cool experience actually. Just
Oh.
because I was just sitting in a spot where the viola sound traveled to my ears a little bit better than it normally would.
Now you've inspired me to listen more to Xenakis, especially his orchestra pieces, because he also treated the orchestra in a very
Mm-hmm.
particular manner, and
His
yeah,
electronic music is pretty cool too, and
yeah, me Sena, yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Like he's got these
uh-huh.
hour-long pieces that are engaging all the way throughout. Yeah, I would say that I've listened to him a lot, but I have never been able to kind of crack his head because well, he's a very complex thinker as an artist and as a thinker because he wrote a lot also. But yeah, there's much to learn from him now that you mention him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, now that we're talking about
Yeah,
like
but it was great. I mean,
influences and
it was worth going out on a Thursday night. It was definitely, a concert that was worth it. And there's not. I feel like I often go to new music concerts and then disappointed by just the overall experience. Not always, but often. But that one I wasn't.
yeah. Well, at least you have that possibility. I'm going to a new music concert next week. Let's see how that goes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very niche here in Puerto Rico, and well, but I must connect with the movement, the nicheness of it, anyways. So I'll let you guys know how it goes. Anyways,
Yeah.
do you guys have any closing thoughts? Because I think that we've been here like
Yeah.
an hour and a half. That's pretty good for an episode for a stream.
Yeah.
No.
My final thought is I should go to concert a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
I
I think that we shouldn't lose that connection.
I've
It's
seen a
hard, but
great composer.
I've actually
As
been.
you age, yeah, it's harder.
It's hard, and like like most of these concerts, especially in rush hour traffic and stuff. Like this concert tonight, last night, it was maybe about 20 minutes from my where I live, but it was within rush hour traffic. It took me like 45 minutes to get there. So I was already an hour at a time just to transition, and it's late, and
And sometimes, yeah, you got the
it's
whole day
tiring. But
you got the whole day behind you.
I've been trying really hard lately to go to more concerts, and not accept any lame excuses that I make up. Like I just want to like sit and watch my
Yeah,
TV show or read my book or go to bed early, which not that, whatever, but like it's like I try to not use any of those excuses as reasons not to go, or I'm going to be too tired in the morning or something like.
I think that we went to so many good concerts at UV, so many special concerts that we could only hear there, that we would
Hmm.
not listen to, like in the majority of places where we live right now. That we kind of got spoiled. Like, okay, but I think that we should push ourselves. Like, I'm going to a very classical concert tomorrow, but
Hmm.
next week it's gonna be more. I don't. Well, I don't know what to expect of it, but it's not gonna be as classical because the philosophy, the aesthetic is more of an aleatoric one. Uh, but at the same time, Latin American aleatory one, which I'm
Hmm.
not that familiar with. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna push myself. So
But
because
in New York,
I kind of lost that in New York.
yeah, you
Yeah,
probably have a lot of
definitely.
opportunities to potentially see concerts. It's just, yeah, it is hard. And the same with me, like in Chicago area, there are a lot of great concerts out there, but it's definitely hard. And I only more recently, I have been really trying to just like and make a bigger effort.
And in the end, it's like, okay,
Oh,
well,
I never regret it.
even if we don't like it,
Hmm.
we will get something out of it because
Hmm.
we ask ourselves why we don't like it, right?
Oh yeah, I
And
mean,
that
I've
makes
been
us think
not
about
every
music.
concert I've been to I've liked, but I've never regretted going.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, so yeah, that's
Yeah,
those are some pretty nice
yeah.
closing thoughts, closing statements. Like keep going to concerts, keep going to to things you like, you don't like. Uh, you think you know everything. No, no. There's always space for rethinking about music. I think, right?
Hmm.
And reconsidering by listening to music and getting in touch with other people's music, even if it's masters of old or new musicians, even younger composers.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I'm
well,
a very old person at these concerts now. Like I'm, everybody is like so much younger than me at these.
we are the geriatric audience now,
Um, yeah,
more or less.
and there's so many
For
like
sure.
people from like Northwestern and East Chicago at these events, and they're like, "Oh, are you study somewhere?" I'm like, "No, I got my PhD in 2015, probably when you were like in middle school." But
When you didn't even know how to play, possibly,
no,
or
I don't say it
something.
like that. But that's
No,
one thing. I'm very old.
it's
No.
coming soon. Don't worry. Well, do you have to say anything, Shanti?
I feel a little bit depressed when you talk about age. Yeah,
Yeah.
Why?
yeah,
We're getting there. Don't feel depressed.
We're
Why?
yeah.
Why?
getting middle
Today
age.
today I just talked to my wife. Yeah, I found myself less and less sharp. I mean, in terms of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and I I very often misread people's messages. And for example, tomorrow I cancel a student because I thought, oh, I won't be able to make it, but actually I could. Yeah,
But
simply because I misremember what Tiffany said. Yeah.
I think that probably you're seeing the wrong way, man. Because now you're wiser. You got more
Hmm.
experience than Megan and I, in a way, in many
Hmm.
ways.
I
Like,
I believe I I'm probably a little bit older than Huang. I think. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Just like 1 or 2 years maybe. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, older means more experience in
Yeah.
the end. Like, okay,
Yeah.
Hopefully.
we lose some things, like youth, being beautiful,
Oh
stuff
yeah.
like that.
But if you,
But
I mean, if you
we
go to an
can we
environment
can
with doctor students, they're very young compared to all of us.
I will learn that next week probably. Well, but
That's okay.
there's
We're
something to
wiser.
learn. There's something to learn about them too. There's something
Yeah.
to learn about everything. I
Oh, for
remember,
sure.
I think Haya Chernobyl it was once saying that she learned about her teaching her PhD students. Like she wouldn't come up with some ideas if she didn't taught to such young students because or saw how they think about music. Like when she explained things to them, she also explained them to herself.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
there's a lot of
Yep.
value there, and we shouldn't
True.
we shouldn't uh, treat us as bygone as being from a bygone era and not having any value. No, on the contrary,
Mm-mm.
like we're
No.
on a specific
We all
stage.
have doctors in front of our name, so
Yeah, and we had all of these experiences,
yeah.
and well, yeah. Well,
Uh,
I think that that's a good way to close this episode.
yeah.
Anything else to say?
Yeah.
Nah. Well,
Yeah.
I think that that's it. Be safe, people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy composing.
Happy composing and
Yeah.
learn your masterpieces and learn your
Learn your
young
Tchaikovsky.
composers' pieces and Mozart's, so you don't write like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
That's it.
We're
Yeah.
out. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.